New research says corporate news outlets largely ignored Sunday's massive climate change rally in Washington, D.C., which organizers call the largest in U.S. history.
In fighting climate change. Meanwhile, guess who Obama is golfing? The two guys, among others, and they were almost all oil executives.
Yeah, the Occupy movement is definitely still valid. It's just in little sections more. It broke off. Instead of the big demonstration at Zuccotti Park, a lot of those people broke off and they're working in separate groups.
Oh, and welcome back to another broadcast. I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
We're talking about mainstream misses and the way propaganda gets written off as being actual news as we cover what mainstream missed all during this week.
That's right. We're also going to be giving you a European news roundup.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about the myth of overpopulation. That's coming up. So stay tuned. You're with Radio Free Canada. Welcome to the show.
A lot of people think the big news stories today are the snowstorm that's hitting the Midwest or the looming federal budget cuts. But judging by local news, there's apparently an even bigger story that's sweeping the nation right now. Check it out.
Well, if you filled up your gas tank lately, then you don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are on the rise. I know.
That's kind of scary. Yeah. I really think.
What a coincidence!
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to agree. It is. It's kind of scary. It's like they had one script.
Well, they're telling us what they don't need to tell us.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They tell us what they don't need to tell us.
But they're all using the exact same words, okay? It's like when Harper and the Australian Prime Minister used the same speech.
Yeah. Wasn't that the speech that Emperor Palpatine gave in Star Wars?
It's kind of true. I saw that on YouTube. The Australian Prime Minister and the Canadian Prime Minister got caught using the same speech within a year of each other, and then they compared that to the speech that Emperor Palpatine uses in the Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, that's stuff that the mainstream does not talk about. Thanks for joining us. As you know, we are out-of-the-box thinkers. We're the guys who talk about a carburetor that gets 200 miles to the gallon.
Say it isn't so.
It's so. And we're also covering aquaponics and zero-point energy and all of those innovations that are not being talked about. We're going to be flashing pictures of that on the screen while we do the broadcast. And we're going to be carrying news that mainstream news wishes we'd forget.
But here's just a little story that the mainstream missed completely.
Oh man, this is cool. Okay, check it out.
New research says corporate news outlets largely ignored Sunday's massive climate change rally in Washington, D.C., which organizers call the largest in U.S. history. Tens of thousands of people rallied against the Keystone XL oil pipeline and in favor of curbing greenhouse gas emissions. But the group Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting says none of the Sunday talk shows that day even mentioned the protest. ABC World News and CBS Evening News each gave it less than 50 words, while the Washington Post covered the protest. The New York Times limited its coverage to a business section story about the political implications of President Obama's decision on whether to approve the pipeline. Fair wrote, quote, "When history looks back on how we responded to the climate change crisis, the fact that most of the corporate media missed the protest's importance will be remembered."
Democracy Now! Giving us the real scoop on that. Fairness in reporting, eh?
Yeah, they're a watchdog of the press.
And this is impressive stuff because we really see that the internet and independent news is writing the history books right now, where mainstream, gone.
Well, you know, their ratings are going down. They're really failing. And they're flailing as they're going down.
They are. Okay, Bulgaria overthrows its government.
Really? I didn't hear about that on the news.
Yeah, I didn't hear about it either.
You definitely could detain Americans with no writ of habeas corpus. Really?
Really?
I didn't hear about that on the news.
It wasn't on the news, but they did have reports about the Oscars. We saw more mainstream coverage of royalty, Oscars, and nonsense. I mean, Walter Cronkite wouldn't tolerate it. Okay, not for 15 seconds. Right here in our studio, though, we noticed that during the Keystone XL protest, Obama was golfing. Now, he was with Tiger Woods.
The mainstream noticed that.
Yeah, that he's with Tiger Woods. But who else was he with?
Well, these guys figured it out.
The White House press corps was just outraged that President Obama had played a game of golf with Tiger Woods, and they didn't get any pretty pictures or video. We've already made fun of them for that. And, of course, these are the same White House press corps that just gets rolled by President Obama and got rolled by President Bush, doesn't ask any tough questions, didn't care about transparency until they didn't get their pretty picture, etc. But it turns out that there is actually a real Golfgate scandal, and it's who he was golfing with, other than Tiger Woods. So now, it's interesting because this is over the weekend. There's a huge climate change rally in Washington, D.C., and it is 40,000 people, and they're saying, President Obama, please don't approve the Keystone Pipeline. We really need your help in fighting climate change. Meanwhile, guess who Obama is golfing with? The two guys, among others, and they were almost all oil executives, were Jim Crane and Milton Carroll. They're leading figures in the Texas oil and gas industry. Now, first, let me tell you more about these honorable gentlemen he was golfing with. First of all, there was other men who run companies in Texas oil and gas that were also at the game. And then there was Carroll and Crane are directors of what is called Western Gas Holdings. Carroll's also the chairman of CenterPoint Energy, if that wasn't enough. Western Gas Holdings, by the way, is a managing partner of Western Gas Partners, which is a midstream energy provider created by Anadarko Petroleum, which is one of the largest publicly traded oil and gas companies. And then on top of all that, their main investments, of course, are natural gas exploration, transportation, and manufacturing, which, by the way, Keystone Pipeline runs through Texas and some of the other states that these groups are in, and it's about transporting oil, among other things. So that would be directly relevant. That's the real issue with golf. If the White House press corps would investigate things like this and find out, hey, I wonder if money affects politics and will affect President Obama's decision, they might actually be doing their jobs.
Oh, man. Maybe actually doing their jobs. He's golfing with oil executives, and all the news ignored that?
All they knew was he was golfing with Tiger Woods.
They do more background on CBC and CTV on the politicians during their candidate races than what they actually do in office. Look up NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, on CBC search engine. Okay,
really?
Check it out. There are things happening they refuse to look at. This, what you've got, this next clip. Okay, I mean, this is amazing.
Well, yeah, this is a former police captain.
Yeah, a real guy, a stand-up guy. Right? Okay. Yeah. And what was he famous for?
Holding up a sign saying, investigate, watch Inside Job, which is about financial collapse. And he's also aligning himself with Occupy.
Yeah. So check it out.
Well, we heard something different from him, but I doubt if he's going to follow through. I believe that was nothing but lip service. Let's see if he stops the XL pipeline. I don't believe a word the man says, although I voted for him. No, I don't think this action is going to have any effect. We're going to have to cause some disruption. And that's why I have my sign that massive civil disobedience will have to be next, because that's the only thing they're going to listen to. I have been demonstrating with the Occupy movement and now here with the global warming action, and I don't know what we have to do to get the police on our side. I just don't have the answer for that. I wish I knew. Every demonstration I've been at, I've never been joined by one single police officer. I wish I did. Well, some of it's fear, but unfortunately a lot of it is they have their slice of the pie, and that's all they're concerned about. Yeah, the Occupy movement is definitely still valid. It's just in little sections more. It broke off. Instead of the big demonstration at Zuccotti Park, a lot of those people broke off, and they're working in separate groups. On fracking, if anybody ever talks about one of these pro-frackers, ask them this question. If this process is so safe, why did former Vice President Cheney get hydrofracking exempt from the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and the Safe Drinking Water Act? There's no answer for that except that it would fail passing those acts. Thank you.
So, you know, mainstream media has taken upon themselves not to report that, okay, people like a law and order guy, a chief of police who's retired, is saying it's not working.
That's right.
Okay. I've said this quite consistently. Okay. Your government is not responsive. It doesn't care.
No, because power succeeds nothing without a demand.
Yeah, but remember, these guys have no conscience. Okay, we've seen major thinkers in the past say non-violent, protests work when your leaders have a conscience.
Yeah.
If your leaders don't have a conscience?
Well, when you're led by psychopaths.
Okay, so we've got Harper, who just will not listen to any common sense. He closes down scientists who will stand against him. Obviously, this guy doesn't have a conscience.
He muzzles scientists.
And Idle No More, the only thing they accomplished was getting some accountants to go in, and then they stopped. Well, we need somebody to start stepping up. Okay, yeah. And I mean really doing stuff, because you can have all the protests and sign all the petitions you want. They just ignore you, hire more cops to beat on more people. Okay, it's as simple as that. Democracy is a joke. Let's run this.
Well, to counter those voices of protest, Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall and several U.S. governors, most of them Republican, sent a letter to Obama last month urging approval of the Keystone XL pipeline, now that its route through Nebraska has been altered to avoid an aquifer. He joins us now from his riding office in Swift Current. Mr. Wall, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me on.
So is Canada losing the PR war on the oil sands?
Well, I think there have been some challenges for some time, and our concern is, you know, the term dirty Canadian oil, which is used by some environmental groups in the U.S., that paints both conventional and oil sands Canadian energy. It's just frankly not good for the trade relationship.
That letter you and the governors wrote to the president, have you heard from him back in any way?
We have not yet heard from the administration. We also wrote a letter here this week to the ambassador, to Ambassador Jacobson, just seeking clarification, because he did say there was no attempt to link, but this is the discussion happening, and we have asked him for some clarification as of just before the weekend began, as of Friday.
All right, Premier, thank you very much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Have a good Sunday.
Okay, I'm struggling to find an educated opinion.
Well, you know, lump him in with Premier Radford. You know, oil is the energy of the future. You know, it's going to be Canada's ticket to the big top.
You know, we have to phase out oil. It's as simple as that. It just has to be phased out.
You know, he's hoping for oil sands development in Saskatchewan.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Good luck with that one. And I remember when they announced, they said, oh, well, we have all of the Indian bands on board with it. Well, we're here to talk about what's going on. And coming up in the next segment, we're going to talk about...
We're going to talk about Canada counting activists as terrorists.
Yes, apparently me and you and other activists have made it on his CSIS list. That one's coming up right away. But remember, activism is working, and you are way more important than us. You're the person who's awake. I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
So good to have you along. Please stick around. It's Radio Free Canada. We'll be right back.